So this will cover sessions up through 125. Session 101. Let's see. This was a continuation of something that happened in one. This was some downtime stuff. Um, so let's see. Get some background information on what happened with the Queen and the deal for Jane. Lysandra, or a vision of her at least, mocking the Queen about how her wife will not be able to be brought back. And offers take her emotion away. She leaves the quadrumvirates. Uh, yes, Alicia had gotten some information about stuff that was going on. Dynasty, what we're off doing stuff. Updates about the undead horde, Dash and Adelon. Let's see. Rux and Petra talk. This is where we find out about using Bahamut's folk as a power source for ships. Limmer tells us about Broomstone. While we don't have any here, it's possible that we could get some from the foreign cats. They manage all stone throughout Exandria. That's going to have to be our in order to our airship. Oh yes, Rux had talked to the Turok, I'm guessing. Found out that Craven Edge was stolen. Tells this to Petra. So we are concerned about Marcus and have to want to push him up on the priority list, but still need to find a way to get to this. Val visits home, talks to her family, tries to set up some Feywild honey business. And she tells her grandmother about all of the Knights Radiant stuff. She brought him. I don't remember if this was when Evil Bear did train, but I guess he had a chat with Petra's mom. Rux does some research to help Adelon, feral dragons, learn about the Feeble Mind spell, and cures for feeble-mindedness, but since this is obviously in relation to the fall of Bahamut, it's not as if Greater Restoration or let's see. We get home. Oh yes, Val brings Petra's mom home. That was wild. Uh, Petra asks about her dad. She shares one of her spells with her. Oh yes, Lucia tried to tried to break up with Zunala. I think that's what had happened. So she has the engagement ring that Zunala gave back to her. She talks with uh Evalier about it, singly enough. Let's see. Val needs to have a discussion with Varen. So Essek escorts her over to the murder temples, where he meets Varen introduces a couple of his soldiers who have started to show knight powers. Let's see, a goblin, a drow, and a tiefling. They're learning how to deal with shard weapons. Val's concerned about all of the weapons that are in the period vaults. That's right. And Varen wants to share the information, but Val is reluctant. Val's priority is healing the Spren, since all of the shard weapons are kind of dead Spren at the moment. And Varen's goal is to share this power with everyone in the Quadrumvirate. Let them know of the Knight's existence and try to expand their forces. But after Val explains the fact that the Spren are, well, the Shard Blades were former Spren, and what she plans to do with them, he sort of joins her side. So he holds off on telling anyone until they figure things out. Let's see, we have a group meeting. Yes, Val was the one who noticed the Bane energy when we talked with the Queen. Rux brings up Adelon and the Brimstone. Lucia and Petra, using their Bahamut powers, try to vibe check Adelon. And we get visions of some other locations, other dragons. One of them being Tidebeak Tower in Uranus, the other being Cerulean Palace in Ankara, all the way over in Marquette. And then in addition to this, we also see Galadon's lair, where Adelon is currently sleeping. Rock streams Evelyn and asks about Brimstone stuff. Discuss Orcus and Marcus and generally catch up. We confront the Queen about the Bane energy. And she lets us investigate, but don't find much other than residual energy from. She makes us all leave and then leaves with Petra. She teleports over to her wife's gravestone, I guess. They have a long heart-to-heart talk, and Petra tries to convince her not to take offer from Sandra. Rux gathers, well, requests some scrap metal from Star Destroyer shipwreck outside Vasselheim to be held that we can take for scrap metal to help fix our ship if we need it. Let's see. Petra says goodbye to Liana. Let's see. Val checks out the Wild Mother Temple. I'm guessing party went to Vasselheim. So Rex could pick up the medal. Val checks out the Wild Mother Temple to see if anyone wants to come with. Sophie sticks around, but Kayla joins us. Let's see, and what is our plan here? Going to I think we are going to the Arbor Exemplar. So we windwalk our way over. We fight some Bane soldiers, some Storm. Yes. We are headed towards the Arbor Exemplar. And one of the things that we see as we are approaching is a Carapist Bane soldier riding a giant rock. Val, of course, wants to save the rock. I think she knows from Wild Mother stuff that rocks are the protectors of the Arbor Exemplar, and so clearly something's happened here that Bane is trying to take over the place. Oddly enough, once we reach the area, there's a whole forest that's grown, which doesn't make sense. And a Star Destroyer overhead trying to attack. There's a barrier protecting the place for now. And so we decide, instead of giving chase to the guy on the rock, we want to stop the ship. And so we sneak on somewhat. There's a whole bunch of stuff inside and another general. We fight. It's a very rough battle, and Kayla ends up dying. But we finish off the general and all of the soldiers. Crash land the ship, as is our MO for Star Destroyers whenever we run into them, and fly off. We hide and resurrect Kayla, which is really rough on Val, but the ritual succeeds. Petra is able to use the raised dead from the Ring of Spell Storing that we keep just in case. We bring her back. We long rest and check in on Kayla. And as pained as she is, she still wants to come with, so we continue on. Traveling through the forest. Let's see. There's a bunch of pits in the ground. And a lot of combat in the forest. We see, as we catch up to where the fighting is, there are a couple Vasselheim troops that are being led by Varro, fighting off a bunch of Stormform. It's a mixture of Wild Mother Temple people and I guess a couple people from the Raven Queen Temple. So they are trying to skirmish and deal with some of the patrols in the area. and we'll hold off any reinforcements as we continue on towards the base of the main tree. We get there, and the tree is actually a teleportation node, which teleports us into, or like we plane shift to somewhere else. And we see the Rock and the Bane soldier that took over him and is trying to corrupt the Exemplar. So we fight him off. He tries to kidnap Val by plane shifting her to Aor. And the giant tree is set on fire. He put the fire out and get in contact with Val. Has to rest to swap out her spell so she can teleport back, but she does. Eventually, thankfully. Yeah, she plane shifts back. She gathers up all the Wild Mother people and communes with the tree trunk. And the pool in front of the tree sort of sends her to the Wild Mother's realm. What ends up happening is actually the opposite of what we've been doing, and the Wild Mother ends up coming to the forest itself, which is not really supposed to happen. The gods aren't supposed to come to the material plane, but she channels her energy through Val and helps Val to basically create a shrine to the Wild Mother here at Templar. She fixes up the forest, makes a giant statue. She summons all of these special fey creatures, sets the weather to be nice and warm and foresty. And yeah, so the Wild Mother stuff mostly dealt with. We head back home. Bro and Kayla sort of take care of things at the Exemplar. Uh, let's see. Haha. Bunch of downtime stuff. Val has like an internal monologue with Kosh about Kayla's death and not really knowing what to do. Kosh evolves ish, and is able to take on a humanoid form. Rux and Val head over to Vasselheim to talk with Lamore at the Wild Mother Temple and sort of figure out what they want to do with the Exemplar. This is where Rux, I don't know. Rux goes to the Raven Queen Temple to ask about the Shadowfell, because now that the Wild Mother is dealt with, just the Raven Queen. And we can get there through the blood pools, but Leotel will basically have to shunt our spirits out of our bodies and will, air quotes, die. And she suggests that there's a temple by one of major cities there, and that could be used as a point of contact in order to commune with the Raven Queen. So, Val, discussing with Lamore, ends up bringing Sophie And bro, back to the exemplar. Lucia checks in with her sister back at home. Um, Val asks Lucia for advice on how to deal with her feelings about Kayla. And they discuss Lucia's feelings about Zin. And oh yes, Rux confronts Petra about the sword, Silken Spite, because I think Petra at some point stole it from Rux. Um, let's see. Rux asks Val about what she saw in Aor. Um, go on a Rux goes on a date with Gunhild, I think. Is this when he has his confession? Um, Semi-confession, I think. They go up to rooftop somewhere and just discuss caring about their co-workers, their teams, people they work with, and the people they want to protect. Um, Lucia tries to make amends with Zunala, I think. I forget what the letter was. I don't think that Zunala actually opens it until after bumping into Lucia later, but we'll get to that eventually. Um, uh, um, Petra goes to youth group again. Bonds with some of the kids using Commune to ask the Luxon some questions. Uh, right. Lucia tries to set things up so that Kayla can reside in the dynasty. Um, or, well, not reside per se, but at least have permission to visit Rasona, since she has been frequenting Castle Fantastic. And yeah, here uh, they go shopping and bump into Zunala. Zunala hasn't opened the letter at all. And they have a talk about things. Uh, Evelier eats all of our ice cream. Let's see. So Val finally gets to meet up with Varen. Um, and we check out the Arbor Exemplar after a couple of days. Varen's brought over his soldiers. And it looks like he's been hurt. Turns out there's been a bunch of attacks at the murder temples lately. Uh, Essek has brought over all of the shard blades, which Val does Val things and tries to awaken them, I think. Um, and all of this negative energy forms and personifies itself as a giant titan, which we have to fight. Uh, and as we finish it off, the souls of the shard blades that are left finally come back to sentience, I guess. And Val convinces some of them, most of them, to form bonds once again and revive the knights. Val takes charge of the cultivation spren, which, if I remember right, is the Wild Mother spren. Let's see. Rex checks in with the party, and we discuss going to the Shadowfell and have Leotel prep for ritual. Get over to Vasselheim. Leotel sends us over. And as our souls are sucked out of our body, we're spit out in the Shadowfell. The Shadowfell was wild. So, as soon as we get there, there's sounds of combat. There's like riot, not a riot, a protest going on outside. There are a bunch of undead that aren't. They look sentient. They're like farmers and stuff. Who are protesting at the Raven Queen Temple. There's a bit of a scuffle. Someone attacks someone, and it goes from a protest to a riot. Both sides start fighting. We do a bit of fighting and then notice that the person who started everything is trying to run away. Give chase, fight him. It's a death knight. We end up killing him. And it turns out that he's the captain of the Deathless Watch, who end up showing up and arresting us. We're taken in for questioning. Learn that there's a lot of discourse in town between the undead, led mostly by the Deathless and the Raven Queen Temple, are taking the Raven Queen's commandments, I guess, a little too strictly. So they're fighting because the undead are clearly undead, but these are sentient undead and not just like mindless zombie undead that we're used to. So we let's see. Our contact from the Raven Queen Temple, Oriana, is trying to get to us. And so we stage a breakout. Which it goes okay. We manage to steal the keys to our jail cells. We break out, get caught by the guards and fight them. Hide the bodies. Sneak around for a bit. We run into Calliope. Calliope's like the lieutenant-ish of the Death Knights, or the Deathless. She's the daughter of the captain who we killed. It appears that she's in cahoots with Korth of Verilax, Korthy, who we know from way back at in Bahamut's realm. We fumble around trying to find our way out of the place, and we discover that the captain is still alive. Well, I think we found that out in interrogations. He had been brought back. But we end up finding his like office, and we lose a couple things. Calliope runs into us and almost finds us out, but we deceive our way around, and then the place goes on high alert as they find out that we're missing. And then Oriana has broken in and killed someone in the kitchens. So we make our way to Oriana. There's a bit of a scuffle. Don't kill anyone, but we break out. And Oriana at least helps us get away from everything. We're brought to a Raven Queen safe house and just dropped off and left to our own devices for the most part. We ask about the Raven Queen shrine, which she acknowledges knowing about, but can't escort us there because important things are happening. But we convince her to give us a map. So the next day, we sneak out of town. I think we scry on Oriana to see what's happening. And or no. We try to talk to the Deathless Captain. Sort of de-escalate things. Because yes, in his office we found a note that seemed to be from Karand that sort of mind controlled him into doing all this crazy stuff. And actually by killing him, we broke the spell. So we bring up our concerns that Karand might be in the area and sort of instigating things. In the Shadowfell to like cause all of this conflict between the two factions. And while he doesn't outright help us, he does acknowledge that he owes us for breaking him free of the spell. And so he offers to show us to bring us to his leadership. Or that might not be until later. Yeah, that's not until later. Well, we share our information. We name drop Korthy, who he recognizes, and we just tell him to keep a lookout on stuff. And then we rest. Next day, get our map. And this is where we scry on everyone. We try to figure out what to do because there's a lot of we're on a time crunch basically. We have like a week to do stuff in the Shadowfell because if we stay here too long, our souls will get stuck here. It seems like there is going to be conflict. Korthy is preparing for like an ambush or something. The Oriana is planning an attack on places in town. Because humans have been kidnapped by a bunch of vampires to be fed on. Um, and I think what we did here was because it was gonna take, based on what we knew from the map, it would take us 5 days to get to the temple, which would only leave us 2 days left. So, barring any shenanigans from the Raven Queen herself, we don't really have a lot of time to spare if we only have a week. So, I'm pretty sure we decided to mention all of the stuff that we heard to the Deathless, just to be like, hey, things are happening. Don't you want to fight, fight, but don't try to evacuate the citizens, etc. Um, and with that, dash off towards the shrine. Uh, you can turn into clouds, so that's super easy. Val dreams Lily. Um, and they talk about M&A for a little bit. As we make it towards the shrine, we see there's a giant undead dragon. And like a Death Knight, or like a Bane Death Knight, um, on top, who's like trying to drill into the tower with his sword. Um, so we decide to fly past all of the undead, like on the ground, and try to land on the tower, attack the Death Knight. But he notices us, and we fight him. And the dragon, probably, I think, just the Baylor. Um, but the Death Knight, it turns out, is actually Marcus's soul. Um, which is very, it shakes the party. Petra is especially disturbed as we have to cut him down. But at the end of the fight, it does seem that he still has a little bit of control as he cries out as we deliver the killing blow, and he disappears back to Orcus's lair, I guess. Um, let's see, the orb thing that Marcus was trying to use to drill into the tower. I'm pretty sure we like try to touch it and it like completely wrecks whoever touched it. But we decide to destroy it, and by destroying it, it like sends out this wave of energy that destroys all of the undead nearby. So entire area is cleansed. Um, and Rux now has his moment. So he starts to meditate and he sinks into the tower. And the Raven Queen approaches. Um, we talk about Orcus and the undead horde and all that jazz. And he asks for um, basically her shard of power. And she offers the power, but in return, he has to basically dedicate himself to her after all of this is over as her champion. And he accepts without giving it any thought, because that is what Rux does. And he gets booned. Um, he asks what she thinks about the conflict in Gloomrot. Um, and she is very confused about the undead situation there. And seeing that there are sentient undead, doesn't think that um, they are nearly as bad as, for example, the undead horde that we're dealing with on the material plane. Um, and Rux is given permission to use her image in helping to negotiate things with the temple. So, as a time saver, she teleports us back to Gloomrot, and so we have a couple extra days to make stuff happen. Um, and the party decides that we can't just leave things as they are, especially considering that with Korthi and Calum around, it's likely that Karand is somewhere. So we head back. Um, let's see. I think our mistake here was we teleported back to the safe house, but we needed to get back to the temple, and the city was like under lockdown by the Deathless, so we had to sneak around town. Um, and half the party got caught. We had to like bamboozle our way out, which was a mess. But we eventually made it to the temple. Um, there's a bunch of wounded there. So it looks like the temple went through with their attacks on the like vampire locations. They rescued a bunch of people who were uh being harvested for blood. And a couple of them are like turning undead, but it's like the sentient undead, and they're all like, "Well, what do we do with these guys?" Um, Rux goes over to find Oriana, um, who's talking with like the director of the temple, and he gives his speech about stuff. He turns into the Raven Queen and basically chastises everyone for doing things the way that they're doing, and commands them to stop their attacking and negotiate a peaceful cohabitation sort of thing. Um, and let's see. So now that we have the Raven Queen Temple on our side, he meets with the Deathless, or we set up a meeting with the Deathless. Oriana sort of spreads the word around to the rest of the temple that things are changing. We meet up with Abaddon at a pub, and he brings us back to the palace where we meet the leaders of the town. Um, we let's see. We explain our side of things. We bring up Korthi and Karand. It turns out that one of their like advisors. So after we told them to be aware of um because Karan can like shapeshift. I guess, or uh, illusion herself to look like other people. We warn the Deathless that she might be like in on their side of things, and so the leaders have been examining all their people, and one of their advisors has been avoiding stuff. So we figure that it might be her. Petra realizes that we're being scryed on, and so it is probably definitely her. We realize that the reason the undead situation is what it is here is because there was a beacon in the wastelands near town, and this is what granted the undead here their sentience. Um, we decide to scry on Karan and see what's up. Well, not Karan, on Korthi, because we know from prior experience that Karan is pretty good at avoiding our scries. So, based on what Karan saw from her scry, she figures that we're gonna come get her. So she sets a trap for us, but we scry on her while she's setting up the trap. And so we know that she knows, but she doesn't know that we know. And so we basically run over to like trigger the trap, but it's a reverse trap. Um oh yeah, we get meteor swarmed as we like fly over to her because of course, like what, our third time getting meteor swarmed or something. A TIE fighter shows up and we fight it out. This fight was particularly cool because I'm pretty sure Lucia like disintegrated the TIE fighter. Um, so that was great. Oh, we have a mini Bane beacon power source. That might be important for actually. Um, and with Karan dealt with, um, all that's left are the peace talks, which the leaders of the Deathless agreed to. And so we meet up. Um, everyone casts their zone of truths. Um, Rex sort of lays the ground rules for everything and explains that okay, the Raven Queen has made it clear that the temple is not understanding the rules that she has set out for them, and it's wanting to offer peace. And in helping the Deathless deal with their intruder problem, we can see that not all, and by Rux organizing this whole thing, um, not all uh, Raven Queen people are like super evil and anti-undead. So they have some peace talks. They decide to set up like a joint like base of operations and work with each other to like rebuild the town and fight off like the Orcus undead that are still lingering. Um, and Razor is updating, so my mic might die. If I disappear for like 5 minutes, I'm probably trying to reconnect my headset. Um, Okay. But with everything settled, oh yes. Val continuing to think that all vampires are friends, and so she asks the deathless leader, who's a vampire, address Dia, if she knows Morgan and Vero. Um, but we return back to Vasselheim, and he brief and oh, still here. Update finished. I getting audio. Well,
Hello?
okay, I think I'm still good. Um, let's see. Um, so now that all of the deity stuff is done, um, start discussing bringing it all together. Um, we do a little bit of research to decide our next task at hand. Um, so more downtime stuff. Val and Petra go back to Val's place. Petra goes to talk to her parents. Um, Val talks about meeting the Wild Mother and her newfound leadership position as leader of the Knights. Petra has a very difficult discussion with her mother about leaving the family behind. Um, let's see. Lucia goes to check up on Denthalis stuff. She has another update on Dynasty things. Dark Toe has apparently showed up of Dia stock, um, along with Aor. Let's see. Petra fights her dad about all the stuff that he did or didn't do, um, and how everything that she did basically like Torog until becoming a Luxon worshiper is like all his fault. Let's see. Val goes to the Arbor Exemplar, meets some more people. She Schema there. Out she's a knight. Uh, shares pleasantries with Allura, Taldore. Um, there's a bunch of new recruits at the Arbor now, and they're starting to bustle. Let's see. Val checks in with Kayla and Vero. Um, now that things are settled on like the Wild Mother and the like Spren side, by reawakening all the shard blades, she's feeling more prepared to reveal the knights um as a faction to at least the Bright Queen. if not the whole quadrumvirate. Um, and she asks Varen to come over to discuss things. Lucia goes on a date with Zunala, and Rux tells Petra about the Raven Queen. Let's see. Varen comes over to Castle Fantastic. It seems the Queen wants to. I don't know if promote is the right word, but wants to put him on the front lines as the well, I don't know if it's undead there, but the forces that are fighting at the borders of the Murder Temple are starting to get more rowdy. Um, Val mentions her worries about the Exemplar being on Dynasty territory and uh, wants to set up like a backup plan of sorts. Probably at Vasselheim. If the Queen does not want to cede Exemplar's lands over to the Knights. Petra tells Lyanna about cutting her family off. Um, Lyanna doesn't make too much of a fuss about it, but he is concerned. Lyanna does. Um, Petra tries to get to learn more about the Dela sibling, and asks what Lyanna wants to do in the future. Because when Rux asked about, or told Petra about his future air quotes plans, um, asked what Petra sees herself doing. Let's see. Lucia tells the party about Aor and Darktoe showing up. Um, checks in with Mom Thalis. Everything is fine in regards to Zunala, except everything is not fine. Uh, from Mom Thalis's point of view, anyway. Let's see. Val doing leadership things. She goes to the Exemplar, gives a speech to all the recruits there, checks in with Kayla and Bro, and goes to Vasselheim and talks to Lamore and the other leaders of the temples and the Guildmaster of the Slayer's take um, about establishing the knights there. Um, the party has a barbecue and has some fun for once, and Petra tries to scare them off, and this ends up putting Lucia in the newspaper again, because everything we do goes on Lucia, because Lightborn. Um, Yes. Val talks with all the leaders. They seem to be open to hosting the Knights as a neutral location in Vasselheim, but they are concerned about the Knights' power as an army. Things go well after she explains the different Spren and their combat abilities or lack thereof. Let's see, we have a group meeting, shares all the stuff. Petra tells us about Bane. I guess this is the first opportunity we had to hear about her, what she learned, and she went to. She got teleported away. Haha. Okay, we go to Uthadurn. Um, Roxy just disappears, and Val goes to speak to the Orvan Queen since King Imathon is over in Rexentrum doing Quadrumvirate stuff. She explains the whole night thing. And she's actually very welcoming and very receptive to it all. Even offers to make a public announcement to check if there are any potential recruits in town. Lucia and Petra do some shopping. Rux hangs out with Gunhild. And he lore drops all this stuff about how he's very smitten with the town of Uthadurn and he'd love to retire here, but alas, he made a deal with the Raven Queen. Um, they have this like moment of not much time left, but let's make the most of it while we can. Petra stocks up on stuff from Glimmer. Val takes Baron and Evil-Ear to go do tourist stuff. And they go to a pub. Petra gets high. And Rux prepares a meeting with the Quadrumvirates for everything about the extraplanar armies and Val stuff, but I don't think we mentioned it this early. And this is where the vegetable organ, the broccoli demon, comes in. Petra uses her newly learned grease spell to prank Evil-Ear, and Lucia helps out with some like illusions of vegetables, which the traveler then goes like all in on and is now haunting him with images of a broccoli demon. Uh, um, so Varen comes over before to hitch a ride with us to Rexentrum. He has made up his mind and will be stepping down from his dynasty duties in order to act as like a second in command to Val for the Knights, which is very noble of him. We all appreciate him. We go to Rexentrum. Let's see. So Val like gives a speech. So we meet up with the Queen and Mom Thalos the night before the big meeting. Just so Val can her thing ahead of time. And Rux gives a teaser about all the good news. Which goes over well, for the most part. But they are very disappointed at the news of Baron's stepping down. Mom Thalos in particular. Petra stays behind and asks the Queen about the Bane stuff. And she simply says that Dynasty will not give up. So that should be a closed door. The next day, big quadrumvirate meeting. Everyone is there. King Imithon, the Bright Queen, Trent, and Alamans. And there's also a new marquee from the coast. We or drop everything. They're all very excited about the good news. Ask them how things have been going. Darktoe appears to be the new base of operations. And while the coast and I guess the Empire kind of have airships, the Bane airships are a bit too strong. The coast has, with the help of the Assembly, repaired what airships they've scavenged from Bane attacks. Rux explains that can put them to use with the help of the Plummet Folk. But we will need Brimstone. Let's see, as for other stuff, Empire is attempting to create a arcane barrier to keep undead horde out. Zadash inward. Bane's forces have located some star destroyers around the major cities, but no major attacks yet. Most fights are happening at the outer borders of Zadash, trying to keep the undead horde away. And then Val drops all of her knight stuff, which has Trent's. This leads to Mom Thalos wanting to make an announcement throughout the Hall of Wildmount for knight recruit. This brings Val to the spotlight. Alamad suggests a uh, some sort of like grand announcement of this alliance between the Quadrumvirate and the uh, in extra planar armies. Help boost morale. So let's see. We decide to do research on dragon stuff as and abyss stuff to see what would be easiest to go to next. Unfortunately, is dragon stuff because we still get any good information on this. It's hard to survive. Um, People die. It's not meant for. So, with all that research, let's see. I don't think we decide until after, but yes, Rux tells Val to keep an eye out on Trent because he seems intent on visiting the Arbor Exemplar. Um, Val dreams Allura to ask for help. Doesn't necessarily want to intervene too much, but says Kima can keep an eye on him, and it wouldn't be too out of place considering she's a knight. Uh, Rux calls on all of the other planar leaders to come to Rexentrum and meet the Quadrumvirate. Val prepares the exemplar for Trent's visit. Varro is sent from Vasselheim as the representative of Mother Temple. And yes, we make the decision to dragon stuff first. So we first on the list, Adelon. We head over to Uthadern, get some griffins, Gunhild, right off. We're attacked by some frost salamanders and stuff. The lair is kind of mazy. Um, and we have a repeat of the Geladon fight, except this time it's Adelon, and it's a lot bigger. There's a hole in the ceiling. It's a rough fight, but he runs away to go hide on the roof, and we end up chasing him up there and like pushing him through the hole in the roof, and he like falls down. So you do like a ton of damage just through fall damage. But in order to reawaken him, Petra and Lucia use Tether Essence to connect themselves, and then Legend Lore to learn his memories and sort of reattach them to him. Which after a couple of skill checks, it ends up working, and he wakes. We ask about the other dragons, and tells us about Usa, Nicodranus, and on uh, in on Corel. Um, the awakening has actually turned Adelon to kind of a Luxon dragon, and imbued like healing powers into him, so he can awake other dragons. So he decides to return to Bahamut's realm for the time being and awaken whatever dragons that he can, and basically mini dragon army come help us. With that, we head over to Adronis. The undead horde has completely taken over the place, but there are some signs of life. There's a halfling uh, who is helping people with the assistance of some revelry to get away from the coast. Although I think we meet him late. Um, you have to sneak in. Yes, we find him here. So Val turns us all into to turn into turn into like moles or something. Burrow our way through, but what did Val turned us into some sort of animal? Badgers. There you go. Val turns us into badgers. Yes. So we burrow under the town walls and go all the way to use this temple or tower. But there's like a field around it. We unburrow and we get into like a basement shelter type place where the halfling that we saw earlier, Flynn, has like gathered people here to escort them out. Um, with funny enough, a Sagape, who is flying the ships to like out of here. Flynn, upon hearing our reasoning for being here, he talks to Yusa's assistant, and gets us inside the tower. And we learn that Yusa is basically in a like a coma. Um, when the when the fall of Bahamut happened, he there was some sort of like emergency backup, something or another spell that he had set up that shunted him away to the astral plane. Um, which is fine, but his connection to the material plane got cut. We have to go find him and bring him back. Um, we teleported over there via some magical mirror thing, and end up in space. Uh, so space is very similar to the Shadowfell, and where there are there are two factions in conflict, and Yusa is like stuck right. Um, there are the Gith who are working with red dragons, and there are the mind flayers who have a like dragon or something. And the mind flayers are trying to recapture the Gith because the Gith escaped from slavery. And the Gith are trying to sacrifice Yusa in order to like power up their main dragon, Elder Brain Dragon. That's what. Um. So the Gith are like flying away, and we see the mind flayers, and the mind flayers are chasing the Gith. So we chase the Gith. Um, but they like want to absorb us into their like hive mind, which we reject. So they're like, okay, whatever. Um, let's see. We end up running into an astral dreadnought that we end up fighting. It's got this like giant celestial arrow in it that we loot and send back home. A sunburst arrow, that's what it is. We sent it home with Sedge because Sedge almost died out here. And find some miscellaneous items from inverted bag of holding. Um, yeah, the mind flayers say like ask us if we have a problem with the Gith, then we should team up with them to fight the Gith. But in order to do so, they want to like want us to join their hive mind, but we don't do that. So they stop talking to us. Eventually catch up and are fighting each other. And so we crash the party, trying to save Yusa. Um, there were a bunch of like red dragons, and then Gith casters, and then a bunch of mind flayers, and the Elder Brain Dragon. It was a wild fight. But eventually team up with Ezethir, the leader of the Gith, fight off the mind flayers. Then oh no, that's what they wanted. They were gonna sacrifice Yusa in order to cure Ezethir of some curse. And we're like, hey, we can remove the curse. If you give us Yusa back, we'll kill your leader. And so they agree to it. Um, Petra ends up befriending her. We move the curse, and they release Yusa from imprisonment. And so easily enough, we just plane shift back to material plane, and he's still in a coma, but we dispel magic, um, the like whatever his defense mechanism spell was, and awakens. We explain what happened, and he says he'll try to help as much as he can. Ask if he knows anything about Jamon, and he offers to teleport us over to Ank'Harel. And so we hit up Evelyn and teleport to Ank'Harel. Go around. No luck on the broomstone, unfortunately. But after some scry attempts, figure that Jamon is at the palace. So we head there and try to get in. And after explaining a story to like one of the assistants, brought to the throne room, and Jamon has been put to sleep. Uh, so there's no fighting needed. We just need to reawaken him somehow, or them. But we came in expecting a fight, so we're not ready to reawaken them. So we go back and have the long rest and prep our spells. A lot of various RP, we do touristy stuff. And bond with Evelyn. And that's it. This recap, 25 whole sessions.